And we pound our chests here that we have a free country, but health freedom seems like it's getting harder and harder to come by.
Listen, they claimed it took 10 years or so to find Osama bin Laden. If you sell raw milk in California or Texas or wherever, they'll find you in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Tell me who the real danger is. Amish farmers? I don't think so. It's absurd what has happened. You're right. And that's, that really gets me fired up on my show when I talk about all the abuses of government that was designed to protect liberty, violating the very liberty that they've sworn to protect because they don't recognize the Constitution anymore.
And we just got done with a conference talking about cancer.
Yeah.
If you want an alternative therapy, you got to get on an airplane or drive a long way and get to a different country.
Isn't that horrible that we as Americans, we pride ourselves on being the land of the free, yet we have to leave our shores. We have to go to Mexico or far afield to Asia or Europe to get treatments because our own country doesn't allow it, our government regulators. This is not the design. Our founding fathers didn't say, well, one day we'll need an FDA to protect Americans from trying new healing techniques. This is ridiculous. Even recently, the quarterback Peyton Manning had to go to Europe for the stem cell therapy, which should be widely available here in America for those that want it. I mean, whether it works or not for you, I mean, there's honesty about whether it does or not. But the fact that we can have access to it, we can't, what is that? That's not freedom. Is that why our troops are stationed all over the world to fight for a bureaucratic oligarchy, medical tyranny, medical monopoly? I don't think that's why they're doing it, but it seems to be that's what's being fought for because the federal government only gets stronger while the people get weaker. And again, this is, gets me going. Trying to contain myself talking about it.
Is it possible to tip things back into a more free healthcare system? Is it possible to even do that at this point?
Well, it seems to be that we've got a lot of education to do because the politicians are a reflection of the American people or the electorate. And there are not many Ron Pauls to go around. It's growing. Dr. Ron Paul, Congressman Paul, I've interviewed on my radio show many times, and as a physician, he stood up for my freedom as a homeopath to do what I do, and I stand with him in regards to restoring health freedom, and that is access to all of these things. We've got to roll back the FDA. Now, for those that think, oh, it's a Republican thing or a Democrat thing, no, it's both of them. Both of the administrations, whether it be Republican or Democrat, have done this. And now we need to kind of come back to the people and say, we don't need this, we don't want this. Now, it may come to the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. This is the one where if it's not specifically or expressly delegated power to the federal government, it's reserved to the states and to the people, respectively. And at this point, I think there may necessarily be the states that nullify, according to Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, nullify the constitutional or, let's say, unconstitutional mandates that are quote-unquote laws but are not really constitutional because we can't wait for the Supreme Court to do it. Why would they rule against themselves already? It's already a biased court. Occasionally they'll get it right, but do you want to risk your freedom to take supplements to cure your cancer? Or do the states now and the people say, enough of this, throw them out? We don't need them regulating raw milk. We can regulate that how we want in our state, or supplements, etc. So there's a concerted effort, yes, on the federal level, to put people in like Congressman Paul that understand this, that would roll back this bureaucratic oligarchy. But there are also, good organizations like the Alliance for Natural Health that are working for this and others. But at the same time, we've got to work on all fronts, state and local levels, to roll it back and throw the feds out where they don't belong. And this is going to be, I don't want a bloody revolution, but my goodness, when you start telling people, there are parents that, moms that can't breastfeed for whatever reason, and so they look to raw goat milk, which is very close in structure to human milk. And yet that raid on Rawsome Foods, which I covered, recently on the show, where they basically wiped out access to these things for these parents. I mean, they're literally taking food out of the mouths of babies. That's the role of the federal government? Could not we as parents, as adults, decide, working with farmers locally, what we perceive to be the best? Do we need a nanny state to protect us from ourselves? We have to decide what kind of government we want, what kind of country we want. If we want a nanny state, then no, we're done for. If we recognize that we're better off caring for ourselves and each other without that intrusion, talk about interventionism, foreign and domestic interventionism, we have to decide what kind of government we want. That's what we're looking at right now, and it's a very dangerous time.
It's an interesting example you bring up. There was an example maybe a year or two ago in Minnesota. Parents of a child that had cancer did not want to go the chemotherapy route and ended up fleeing the state. They were vilified in the media. They were hunted down by officials, brought back to
I remember that story.
Minnesota, where they started the boy on chemotherapy.
But
even throughout the media, these parents were terrible.
Yeah,
you know,
they were
that
vilified
was
for that.
Yeah.
Another case out of Virginia that I covered, who had a form of lymphoma, and they, tried to. Well, he actually went through a round of traditional oncology and decided it was making him so sick he couldn't survive another one. And so he and his parents researched, and he was a young teenager. And he said, "Mom and Dad, I don't want this." And they supported him, and they said, "All right, let's go to natural medicines." And so the doctor ratted them out, and the state intervened, and Child Protective Services came in and said, "No, no, no, you can't do that." Big thing about same scenario. They went back to the judge. There was a real outcry. Even people that are big pharma supporters were really outraged by what happened because they realized this was an overstep and an overreach. Now, they eventually, the judge said, okay, you can go to a doctor, but it has to be monitored by another doctor, whatever. And so he went his alternative route, and he's alive and well today, thankfully. But this is the kind of thing is like, does government begin and big pharma end and vice versa? That is what we have the danger now of a corporatocracy or corporatism. We have corporate welfare. Now the corporations, multinationals, pharmaceuticals are literally dictating policy to the regulators and the media. So you talk about big media, big pharma, big government, all in collusion to attack the people who have recognized that we do not suffer from drug or vaccine deficiency diseases. We lack the simple nutrients, we lack the ways to detoxify, and even cancer can be cured, not via toxic means of chemotherapeutic chicken or radiological chicken, but by giving the body what it needs and getting rid of what it doesn't.